Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Superheroes, Movies, and Superhero Movies. I'm your host, Justin Speck, and again, I am joined by SmoothJStew. How are you, Stu?
I'm doing good, man. How are you, Justin?
I'm great. I'm glad to have you here again. We're talking about another DC animated movie. But before we get into that, I haven't done this the last couple of times you've been on the show, but if you tell us about yourself or where, what you do and how people can find you and your content.
Sure. I mean, I'm pretty sure people know me by now. I think this is the fourth time I've been on here. So, but yeah, I'm SmoothJStew. I do movie reviews and physical media videos. I'm on YouTube as SmoothJStew. So just type it in the search bar, all one word. I'm easy to find. I'm also on Instagram at SmoothJStew, all one word. I am also a writer for theculturednerd.com. So if you ever want to catch any of my articles, just hit the link in my link tree on IG, or you could just go straight to theculturednerd.com and search John Stewart Sr. And I'm right there with all those great articles for you guys for all that nerd stuff. But yeah, YouTube, SmoothJStew, IG, SmoothJStew. So yeah, give me a follow, give me a subscribe. I'm trying to get up to 200 subscribers. So if you could help me do that, that would be fan-freaking-tastic.
And if you aren't subscribing to him, yeah, do yourself a favor and subscribe because he's got some great stuff.
Thank you.
Especially on Monday nights studio time. That's my current favorite thing to partake in. He's got the live stream going on YouTube, so you get the chat and the interaction and everything. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I love doing studio time. My favorite thing about it is the interaction with the chat.
Yeah, it's so much fun. It's fun being on the show, and it's fun watching it and chatting. So it's just fun all around. It's cool stuff.
Absolutely. I definitely got to have you on again. You are definitely one of my favorite guests.
Oh well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
No problem.
And clearly, I like having you on this show since this is, like you said, the fourth time I think we've had you on here. So
yeah.
Today we're talking about Batman and Mr. Freeze, Subzero, released in 1998, directed by Boyd Kirkland, written by Randy Rogel and Boyd Kirkland, and starring Kevin Conroy, Lauren Lester, Mary Kay Bergman, Bob Hastings, George Zunza, Robert Costanza, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., Dean Jones, which surprised me. I don't recall hearing him in the movie, but Marilu Henner as well, and then of course, Michael and Zara as Mr. Freeze. This was a straight-to-video movie that came out. I read that it was actually supposed to be released in '97.
Yeah, but because of Batman and Robin.
Yeah, because of the bad, reception of Batman and Robin, they said, let's wait a year.
And that makes sense because the animation is different. It's the original animation from the 92 series,
right? And they had already changed up the style on the TV show. Yeah. I thought that was also kind of interesting, and I'm glad they did, because I prefer this style of animation to when they redesigned the characters for the new Batman Adventures or whatever it was called.
I agree. There are some elements about the new Batman Adventures that I do like. I like the red backgrounds.
Right.
Red is my favorite color. So
okay, there you go.
And I love the redesign of Batgirl. That's one of the things that I wasn't feeling in this movie.
Right.
Was the design of Batgirl.
Sure.
I thought that was a necessary upgrade.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Some of the other character designs, though, I feel like were when they did the update was not as good. Batman is fine, but like Robin, they made it might be did they change it? Yeah, they did change him to the Tim Drake.
They did.
Robin, because Nightwing's on the in that show, so he's like a child. Batgirl, you're right, was good. And then there were a couple like Scarecrow looked really cool in the in that show, but like
the redesign.
I never really cared for the Joker. They got rid of the red lips.
Yeah, and they gave him like beady eyes.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
So that was one character design I wasn't a huge fan of. I wasn't a huge fan of the Bane design either.
Yeah, me too. I didn't like the Bane design. I didn't like the Mr. Freeze design either.
Yeah, no. The Mr. Freeze design from the animated series and the way he looks in this movie, that's like one of my favorite Mr. Freeze designs.
Yeah, that to me, that is the definitive Mr. Freeze look. And whenever I think of Mr. Freeze, I think of Batman the animated series, the original,
right?
And this movie.
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's just, I mean, it's simple, but it looks perfect, and I love like the red goggles and everything.
Yeah, it's simple, but it's distinct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So normally with these episodes, we always talk about like seeing it for the first time. Do you have a memory of seeing this movie for the first time?
I don't. I do remember that I was an adult when I saw it for the first time. So I was probably in my early 20s.
Okay.
When I saw it, but I don't remember exactly how I felt about it when I first watched it. I know I liked it, but I haven't seen it enough times to kind of remember what was going on before I watched it this last time. I tried to watch it before and I was so sleepy. And I was like, let me turn this off. Yeah, let me turn this off and take a much needed nap. So I threw it back on today right before we hopped on to record, and I paid a little bit closer attention.
Oh, that's good. That's good. It's a pretty short movie too, so it wasn't too bad. Actually, I do have a memory of seeing this for the first time. It was tonight. So I had never seen this before. It was a movie that I had always kind of wanted to see because it's Batman the Animated Series, and I could tell that it was that style. But for whatever reason, I just never got around to watching it. And when I bought Batman the Animated Series on Blu-ray, it came with that series. So I was like, oh, that's cool. So I had it on Blu-ray, and then I think the digital code that came with the series also unlocked the digital copies of that and Mask of the Phantasm. So
nice.
I have it on Blu-ray and I have it digital, and so but for whatever reason, just been kind of putting it off, and so thankfully doing this episode actually got me around to actually watching the movie.
Nice. I think this is my fourth time watching it. I watched it once on Cartoon Network, I think, the first time I watched it. And then I watched it twice when I bought the DVD, because it came with Batman Mask of the Phantasm. It was a double disc. Yeah, it was a double disc. So you flipped it over and cool. It was Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
Nice.
But yeah, I haven't seen this movie too many times. But I mean, I still enjoyed it. I definitely didn't not like it. It's not quite as good as Mask of the Phantasm, but it's still solid.
Yeah, I agree. It's my thought watching it tonight was that I really enjoyed it. I never really kind of got bored with it. But at the same time, I felt like it was. I know this is a kind of silly thing to say since it's a movie based off of a Saturday morning cartoon show, but it felt like it was geared a little bit more towards kids, more so than Mask of the Phantasm.
I agree.
Mask of the Phantasm, like we talked about in that episode, had kind of that emotional depth to it. And it was, this great origin story of Batman. This really, and this is by no means criticism, but it felt like an extended episode of Batman.
Yeah, that is exactly what I was getting ready to say. It felt like an hour and 15-minute episode of Batman the Animated Series, whereas Mask of the Phantasm actually felt like a feature film.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so, for being, I love Batman the Animated Series. So to get an hour and 15-minute long episode, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
But I did one of the notes I wrote was, it was about half an hour into the movie. I was like, I think I looked at the time and it was 29 minutes. And I was like, we're 29 minutes into this movie and we've only seen Batman once. And, it's a Batman movie. And I paid attention. Batman doesn't show up until he has that one small scene in the beginning with him and Robin, which, by the way, that was cool to see. I like that Robin was in the movie and Batgirl.
Yeah.
Batgirl only has the one scene as Batgirl, but
I like how they introduced Batgirl too.
Yeah, that was cool.
They're talking about her, and whatever they say in the conversation, she's like doing the opposite when she's fighting as Batgirl. I thought that was dope.
Yeah, that was really good. That was very well done. So we see them in the beginning fighting crime, and then we don't see Batman or Robin. I mean, we see their alter egos, but we don't see them again until 39 minutes into the movie, and the movie's not, very long. So that's almost half of them. But from 39 minutes on till the end of the movie is nothing but Batman and Robin and Mr. Freeze fighting and all that stuff. So it's a extended kind of action sequence, which was actually pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking, 30 minutes into this kids movie, I was like, man, there's not a lot of Batman in this Batman movie.
Right. Because they were setting up Mr. Freeze.
Right.
There's a whole lot of Mr. Freeze in this movie. And watching it, I understand why they called it Batman and Mr. Freeze, because they're in the movie about equally.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a Batman movie that features Mr. Freeze. This is definitely Mr. Freeze's movie as well as it is Batman.
Yeah, really. That's 100% true. It really is almost it almost is a Mr. Freeze movie, but they had to put Batman in the title, kind of. I mean, and Batman obviously does fight him and everything, but it is we start the movie off with Mr. Freeze, and Mr. Freeze is the one trying to accomplish the saving Nora's life and everything, and he's just going about it in kind of an evil way, but yeah, it really is both of their movies. So you're right. I'm kind of glad they put Mr. Freeze's name in the title, Batman and Mr. Freeze.
Yeah. He's Mr. Freeze was a lot angrier in this movie than he was in the animated series. In the animated series, he's very stoic and cold, all pun intended. But in this one, he definitely is a lot more driven.
Yeah.
And I think that's because obviously the stakes are higher. He has to save Nora like as soon as humanly possible.
Right.
Because the submarine crashed in her containment thing and broke it. So now they gotta rush to save her life. So I definitely understand why he would be more driven and more angry, but at the same time, it kind of felt like he was making some very stupid decisions. And I'm like, you're a doctor, you should know better than that.
Yeah.
like he kept shooting at Batgirl, and I'm like, stop doing that. Like, even the doctor tells him, like, no, like you
can't freeze her.
You can't freeze her. Like, she's gonna be no good dead.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I guess he was just so driven by his anger that he wasn't thinking clearly, perhaps, in those moments. I did really like the beginning, though. The whole setup. I like how Freeze is essentially, living with his polar bears and living a fine life until that submarine crashes into his, home, I guess, and destroys Nora's containment unit. And I like that we don't really see it. We see the kind of the aftermath of it, but he's completely frozen the whole crew. He's just gotten his revenge on them kind of that way. I thought that was really cool. And then, that sets off the whole story. He's got to save Nora. I
thought it was cool, but at the same time, it's like, how are they supposed to know that you were living there, dude?
Well, that's true. I mean, obviously, like it's not the submarine's fault at all. But I did still like that he took it out on them.
Like you're in the middle of nowhere, and they don't know that you're there. They don't know that your frozen wife is there. So I understand why he was angry, but I don't know.
No, it was unfounded for sure.
Yeah, there was definitely nothing that they could have done about that.
No. Yeah. It was just really unfortunate for them.
Yeah.
Just wrong place, wrong time, I guess, type of thing.
Absolutely.
Mr. Freeze on the animated series, and this was something that I didn't realize until I rewatched the whole series last year during quarantine. He's only in I think 2 episodes of Batman the Animated Series, and then when they turned it into the New Adventures of Batman or New Batman Adventures, he's got 1 episode. So in the whole series, he's only in 3 episodes.
I thought he was in like 4 or 5, because I know he was in Heart of Ice.
Yeah. Well, unless he's played by a different actor, because I looked up the actor who voiced him in this movie, and he only voices him in 3 episodes of Batman the Animated Series. And then he did voice him in Batman Beyond and he voiced him in the video game Batman Vengeance. That was actually the very last thing he did before he died.
Where he passed away. Yeah.
But yeah, New Batman Adventures, 1 episode. Batman the Animated Series, 2 episodes. And those 2 episodes were Heart of Ice and Deep Freeze. And then New Batman Adventures was Cold Comfort. And that was it.
Huh.
But I remember being shocked watching the series last year, being, man, I could have sworn Mr. Freeze was in way more episodes than this. So,
well, that's how good he was.
That's exactly what I was thinking. And so it makes me like not surprised that that's who they chose to give a straight to video feature film for, was because he's so good that I have a memory of him being in way more episodes, but it was only those 3.
Yes.
And 2 as this style character. And so, yeah, I mean, he deserves his own movie, and he's great in this movie too. The actor that plays him is really good.
Yeah, he's fantastic. The character is written well. This was the first time we had seen this tragic backstory for Mr. Freeze, and then Michael Ansara does a phenomenal job as Mr. Freeze. So I was very, very pleased with his performance.
Yeah, me too.
You could feel the angst and heartbreak in his voice. It's perfect.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
Perfect casting. I agree. Did a great job. Speaking of actors, we have the amazing Kevin Conroy. I mean, I don't know how many times we can talk about how perfect he is as Batman. But we've also got Lauren Lester as Robin, who I've always really, really liked.
I like Lauren Lester as well. He has a very distinct voice. You immediately know who that is when you hear. You may not know the actor's name, but when you hear his voice, you immediately know that's Robin.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I think he's great. The design of Robin in this movie, they made, not when he's Robin necessarily, but when he is Dick Grayson. He just seems like, I don't know, maybe it's the suit that he's in, but he seems very big.
Yeah, he's a stocky guy.
Yeah,
because I like the approach they went with the animated series. They made him older, they aged him up, so he's been Robin for years now.
Right.
He's in college, so he's a young man, and he's kind of like a smaller version of Bruce Wayne.
Right. Yeah.
Just as far as his physicality.
Right.
And I really enjoy the scenes that they have together when they're just Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson. Yeah, because they feel there's more of a sense of camaraderie rather than when they're Batman and Robin. He kind of feels like a sidekick.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. There's that partnership.
Yes.
You get that feeling of that. Yeah, I felt like that after Barbara is kidnapped and they're at the hospital and they're looking up the records on the computer and stuff. You could definitely, I felt like their partnership there came to light, and just the way they kind of banter with each other too at the party where when they're talking to Commissioner Gordon and after that and everything.
Like how do you deal with girls, and then he gets pulled away with all these girls.
Yeah,
I thought that was cool.
That was great. Bob Hastings as Commissioner Gordon has always been one of my favorite actors to play Gordon.
Excellent.
Yeah, I love the animated series version of Gordon. He's also that's just one of the best interpretations of Gordon that I love that version of Gordon.
I agree.
And I really liked him in this movie too, because when you see him when Barbara gets kidnapped, he's very upset, and he's telling he's barking orders, telling everybody to find his daughter, and perimeters, 20-mile perimeters, and blah blah blah. And I thought it was that was like the most emotion we've seen out of this version of Gordon. I feel like
Yes, I definitely agree. When I watched that scene, it reminded me a lot of Batman Arkham Knight.
Yeah,
when Scarecrow kidnaps Barbara, even though Arkham Knight came out way later.
Right.
Yeah, but I've played that game so many times. I'm playing it now.
Nice.
Oh yeah, I know that game inside and out.
I have never been much of a video gamer, but the Batman Arkham games are like the only games that I've ever played all the way through multiple times.
Yes,
Those games
yes,
I
I
could
agree.
honestly just, especially Arkham Asylum. I don't know,
Arkham's
the very first one. Just I could just play that game from the beginning, over and over and over again.
the one that I play the most is Arkham City.
Yeah, and that one too. I
That
mean, it's so good.
is that's that might be my favorite game of all
Yeah,
time. Um, the one I play the least actually, out of those three is Arkham Asylum, and
yeah,
not because I don't like it because I love the game.
yeah.
Um, it's a maze,
Right.
which is awesome, but it also stresses me out.
Oh, sure, I can get that.
So I have to like take a break when I play Arkham
Right,
Asylum because when I play Arkham City, I could play that all the way through.
right.
But with Arkham Asylum, I definitely got to take a break because you're just going back and forth,
Yeah,
back and forth. You
yeah.
definitely that's the one great thing about that game is that you really have a sense of claustrophobia.
Oh, yeah.
It feels very boxed in
Hmm.
and contained because it's a maze, and you keep having to go, back and forth to different wings of Arkham.
Right.
And then the atmosphere is scary.
Hmm.
It's really scary. Like throughout most of the game, especially when all the inmates take over.
Right.
Yeah, that's when the game gets really interesting.
And those like when you're walking through Arkham Asylum and you hear that like that chime that has like
Doo,
the
doo, doo,
yeah
doo.
those
Yeah.
like that's creepy too.
Yeah.
But no, but you're absolutely right. I think Arkham Asylum definitely has like kind of a horror feel to it, which I really appreciate.
Yes.
But I
Yes.
love Arkham City and Arkham Knight. They just kept getting bigger and bigger, and so you got more of Gotham to explore and everything. Like because with Arkham Asylum,
Hmm.
you couldn't get off that island. You could see
Right.
Gotham City kind of across the bay.
Yeah, across the bay. Yep.
But yeah, so getting to explore more of Gotham was incredible in those other games. I've only played Gotham Knight or not Gotham Knight, Arkham Knight one time through, and I need to
Hmm.
start it over and do it again. But I know I got so frustrated with some of those battle tank levels
Yes.
that I was
That
like,
is
it's the one
yeah,
reason why I haven't really started it over because I'm like, I just know those levels are gonna piss me off.
yeah, that is easily the most frustrating thing about the Arkham Knight is the tank battles. One, there are too many,
Yeah.
and the two battles that make me want to pull my hair out are at the end of the game. Well, almost the end of the game. With the first one is the cloud burst when the cloud burst is first
Mm-hmm.
first there, and you gotta hack all these
Right. Yeah.
these tanks and then run away. Like that pisses me
Yeah. I
off.
hate that.
Every time I get to that point, I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a break from this game and I'm gonna come back to it like a couple weeks later.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
I gotta calm down.
yeah, because I will throw my controller
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
if I keep playing. And the other tank battle that really pisses me off is when you're running from the Arkham Knight in the tunnels underground.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that one really irks me. That one is kind of fun, but at the same time, it really stresses me out.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that's another part where I have to take a break.
Yeah. The one that I have still not been able to beat is technically a side mission thing. It's the Deathstroke one. Did you do that one?
I have not beaten that one just because it's so many. Like it's
Yeah.
so many things that you gotta
It's
do.
like I said, I'm
before you
not
get
much
to
of
the
a
end.
video gamer, so I've just resigned myself to being like, I'll never beat this part of the game will just go unfinished. I will never beat this part.
Yeah, one
Um,
tank battle that I did enjoy was Mr. Freeze. I don't know if you have the Gotham's Most Wanted
I think so, but I don't know if I've actually played
the
that yet.
DLC.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Freeze, that's appropriate for this episode. Mr. Freeze's side mission is one of the best side missions on the game.
Nice. I liked Mr. Freeze in Arkham City too. All of his levels were I thought really really
Yes.
cool too. The battle with him
Yes.
was awesome. So
you
nice.
You couldn't do the same
Right.
move twice.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I thought that was brilliant.
That was
genius.
really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm glad that was a good segue back into the film with Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
One of the notes that I wrote, so Mr. Freeze gets oops, sorry. I forget the guy's name already. I just watched the movie tonight, but I forget his name. But he gets one of his old colleagues.
You talking about the doctor?
Yeah, Dr.
Yeah.
Something or other. He gets him to
Dr. Gregory Belson.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Gregory Belson.
The actor kind of looks like him too.
Yeah, that actor, he's been in a ton of stuff. That's George Zunza, I think. And he was in like The Deer Hunter and a whole bunch of stuff. But Mr. Freeze gets him to help him heal Nora. And basically that character, Dr. Belson, is wildly in debt, it seems like. He made a bad deal or something. I forget. They explain it in the movie. He did something and then it failed on him, basically. So he's wildly in debt. And Mr. Freeze is like, here, I have a bunch of gold. You can have it all. Just save my wife. And I like how at first he's like, we can't take a living organ donor. That'll kill the donor. And he's like, I'll give you all this gold. And he's like, all right, no problem. He's like, who do you want to kill?
Like, that's cool. I could do it for that. Yeah. That's cool.
Oh, well, you didn't tell me that you were going to pay me a bunch of money.
Right.
And of course, Barbara Gordon is the one. She's a match. She's got the blood type that Nora Freeze has. So the note I wrote was when Mr. Freeze goes to kidnap Barbara Gordon, he busts into this club, and he's got his 2 polar bears, which I thought was kind of cool. I like Mr. Freeze having the pet polar bears.
Yeah.
But he bursts in with giant bears, and one of the club owners is like, "Hey, no pets allowed." Not like, "Oh my God, there's polar bears in here." That was his reaction.
Like, dude, these are bears. These are not dogs.
Right.
Like, these are bears, dude. Like, stand back.
Right.
Just let him do what he do. Because you can't do nothing with no bears, bro.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not messing with any bears. Like, this guy can bring his bears in. I'm not gonna mess with him. Yeah, that just kind of made me laugh. Hey, no pets allowed. That just seemed like that was one of those instances where it felt like it was geared towards kids. It was, hey,
yeah.
And even the fact that
these are not pets,
right? And I like the polar bears. I thought, like I said, it was a cool touch. But that even having the polar bears in the movie felt kind of kid, not kid friendly, but kid oriented, I guess.
Yeah. No, definitely. I agree. Did this movie, like, I could tell that Alan Burnett wasn't a writer before I even looked at the IMDb. I could tell that he didn't write it.
Yeah.
Did you get that?
Yeah. I was actually surprised that Bruce Timm really wasn't involved with it either, because apparently he was busy with Superman the animated series at the time, and so he didn't. So this, even though it was based on Batman the animated series, which was Bruce Timm's baby, it didn't have him or Alan Burnett really kind of involved, and I do think it's still, like, it's not bad by any means, but you can tell that a couple of the key creative people were not involved in it.
Yeah. It was, like I say, I still enjoyed it. It just didn't quite have the magic that Batman Mask of the Phantasm did. And that, it was definitely evident. The production value was really good though. I especially love the some of the 3D scenes, and I know last episode we kind of agreed that some 3D scenes in 2D movies kind of feel awkward.
Yeah.
In this movie, it didn't feel awkward. It's the same as Mask of the Phantasm, at least for me.
I think it didn't feel awkward throughout most of the movie. The only time where I didn't like it was actually in the very beginning, and it made me nervous about the rest of the movie. It was in the very, very beginning. You see, they did like the icebergs and stuff was in 3D, and then when you see the polar bears, it's very obviously 2D, and it just was a weird. It didn't really go together, in my opinion. And then you see the submarine.
I could agree with that.
And the submarine looked good. That was in 3D. or 3D animation,
Mm-hmm.
and that worked with the icebergs and everything. But then when they would cut back to the polar bears, it was just this weird juxtaposition, I guess, of having the 3D and then back to the 2D.
Yeah.
But everything else, like I know the car,
Yeah,
like,
I could agree with that.
you know, when Robin is chasing down Mr. Freeze on the motorcycle and Mr. Freeze is in that stolen van. I know those cars were 3D animated, and that looked great. I thought that looked really, really well done.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
Was the car chase. That looked really good.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, other than the very beginning with the polar bears, I thought the rest of the 3D animation was great, and I love the opening. Actually, it's you hear the Danny Elfman music, and you see the logo pop up, and it's got the red on it, which I know you probably like.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it says Subzero, and it kind of blasts apart. I was like, oh, that's pretty sweet. That was pretty good production value. And then they ruined
that was definitely dope. I like the opening, but it felt abbreviated.
Yeah.
Like especially compared to Mask of the Phantasm. They just kind of let it draw out and kind of build. I thought that was really good. But in this one, you could tell that they were just trying to get to the point,
right?
And not so much focus on the aesthetic or focus on atmosphere,
right? Yeah, and I wonder if obviously, Batman. We talked about Mask of the Phantasm, how it was originally supposed to be a straight-to-video movie, but I wonder if kids don't have the attention span to sit through opening credits as much. Maybe I wonder if that goes into it at all. And so they were like, "We'll just show the logo. We'll say Subzero, and we'll go right into the story." I don't know. I mean, it does have opening credits, but it's over. I think, if I recall correctly, it's over seeing Mr. Freeze, fishing and the submarine and all that stuff. So it kind of happens during the story.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Because like I said, in the Mask of the Phantasm, it just felt like they wanted to focus a little bit more on establishing that atmosphere for the movie,
right?
And it's
perfect.
It does they do such a great job doing that.
Yeah, I agree.
The music. What about the music?
Oh yeah, well so again, when the movie opens, you hear the Danny Elfman music, and you're like, oh, that's amazing. And then you kind of get into the movie, and it's very much not Danny Elfman. You can tell, there's a I don't think the music was bad. Nothing ever really stood out as bad. There's the first time we cut to Gotham City, there's this kind of upbeat type of song, and you can just tell I think I may have mentioned this on Superman Doomsday. You can just kind of tell it was made like on a computer. It just feels a little cheap-ish. But it wasn't. I don't think the music was necessarily bad. It just didn't sound as good as it could have.
Yeah, it was good, but it wasn't great.
Right, and nothing
Mask
really.
of the Phantasm was great.
Right, and nothing about this score really stood out to me. There were no like big kind of moments where it didn't even really seem to me like the composer. I saw his name in the credits. It was a name I didn't recognize, but it didn't seem to me like he used Danny Elfman's theme that much either. They used it in the very beginning of the movie, and then I don't think you heard it again throughout the film.
No, you didn't. That was a little disappointing. The guy's name is Michael McQuistian.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
I think that's right, Michael McQuistian. Yeah, it like I said, it sounded good. It served its purpose.
Yeah,
but like you said, you could definitely tell immediately that it was not Danny Elfman.
Right.
But like I said, it wasn't bad, and they used a lot more. What's the word I'm looking for? I can't even remember the name of the song that was playing while Dick and Barbara were talking.
They did use like source music. Is that what you're kind of talking about?
Yeah.
They used more of a soundtrack, I guess. I bet.
Yeah, it felt more commercial. That's the word I'm looking for. It felt more commercial. So yeah, I think that kind of took away from the overall aesthetic of the score. Is that it definitely felt more commercial.
Right. I Only Have Eyes for You. Is that the song you were thinking of? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And that song worked for the scene, but you're right. It was
Yeah.
it does feel kind of more. They didn't use the song like that in Mask of the Phantasm, so
Right.
it was interesting that they decided to do that with this movie.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting because you don't really hear music like that in the first movie until like the end credits when they play
Right? Yeah,
that
the end credit song.
song.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I wonder if they would have used that song had it been a direct-to-video movie, or if they decided, hey, this movie's going into theaters, we need to have kind of a big song for the end credits, like all these other theatrical movies do. I would
Right.
just be curious to
Right.
know
Right.
how that played out.
Yeah, I'd like to know that as well.
Batman and Robin, they kind of do they intercept the call? But they overhear a call from Dr. Oh no, that's what it is. They're at they find his broker, Dr. Belson's broker.
Yeah.
And that's how they learn that he's in debt with the SEC or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And he gets a phone call from Dr. Belson while they're there, and they tape it on his answering machine. And you hear
Mhm.
the foghorn in the background, and you hear some other stuff, and that's how Batman puts together that he's not on the coast. He's actually on an oil rig out in the ocean, which I thought was kind of cool.
Right.
And I like how they figured that
Yeah,
out.
that was
Some
definitely
detective work.
Batman. Yeah, that was definitely Batman. Yeah, yep. Definitely Batman being a detective in that, and I love that aspect of Batman in this movie.
Yeah, me too. I like that a lot. Um, and I think it's cool that Mr. Freeze was hanging out on an old oil rig, I guess. That was just kind of interesting to me. And that's one of
Yeah,
the,
you would think that's the last place he would be. Oil and fire.
right. Well, that's what I was going to say. That was one of the notes I wrote was I actually kind of like how, I mean, it might be, I don't know, maybe it's on the nose or something, but I like how in this Mr. Freeze movie, the whole, final act of the movie, his hideout is on fire, so it was kind of fire and
Yeah.
ice type thing.
Right.
So
Right.
it might not make sense, but I still thought it was kind of cool.
It made for a really good looking third act.
Yeah,
Though.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I also like too that we know Barbara Gordon is Batgirl, and so she wasn't
Mhm.
just a damsel in distress. Like she actually almost gets away from Mr. Freeze at one point. She's
Mhm.
escaping through the air vents and everything. It shows her. I liked it showing her jumping on the bed, trying to get up to the
Mhm.
pipes and everything. And I like too that she
Yeah, she was jumping pretty high too.
that bed was basically a trampoline. I mean, it was. I've never seen a bed with such great springs, I guess.
It has some. Yeah, it has some extra spring in it.
Yeah. I thought the inclusion of the kid was interesting. He kind of told a story. His parents were dead, and so Mr. Freeze, I guess, was kind of taking care of him, which brings a little bit of humanity to Mr. Freeze. He's not just this cold-blooded killer. He can take care of. He's obviously we know he can take care of Nora Freeze, and he cares about Nora Freeze. But then he's also taking care of this kid, although he is completely lying to him because the kid meets Barbara Gordon and then he goes, "You're not going to hurt her, right?" And he's like, "No, of course not."
No, of course not. Even though you already have,
right? I just plan on harvesting her organs and killing her, but I'm not going to harm her.
Right? I'm not going to hurt her.
Right?
Yeah, it won't hurt.
She won't feel anything.
Going to kill her.
Maybe that's what he was thinking. Maybe that was his thought process. Nah, it's not technically a lie. She's not going to be in pain.
Like, technically, I'm not lying.
And then one of the other things I really liked about Barbara in the movie, and this is, and obviously this is Batman and Robin helped with this too, but like Mr. Freeze at one point gets kind of crushed or kind of, some parts of the oil rig collapse and land on him and he's stuck.
Falls on him, yeah.
And she immediately runs over to help him. This is the guy that has kidnapped her, who was going to kill her and use her organs to save Nora. She has no hesitation really in going to help him out, which I thought was really cool. Very, very heroic of her.
Yeah, and it makes sense for Barbara to be the one to do that because of who her father is.
Right.
Jim Gordon, he's by the book, always do the right thing no matter what. So he's instilled those principles and those morals in her. So of course it would be, first nature for her to immediately go save him, even though he's done all this horrible stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And then
because even in Killing Joke, in the comic, as well as the movie, when not Batgirl, Jim Gordon is captured, and Batman finally shows up. Even though he's done all these terrible things, the Joker's done all these terrible things. He tells Batman, bring him in by the book. We cannot do things his way. We got to show people that the right way works.
Right.
Which I think is brilliant writing.
Yeah.
It was good writing for that, and it was good writing for this for Barbara Gordon, because it just further establishes those principles in the Gordon family.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. And then, like I said, Batman and Robin show up, and they try to help him too, and they start to leave, and Mr. Freeze is like, no, we can't leave without Nora. And so Batman and Batgirl run literally into the fire. Mr. Freeze has to, they realize they can't get very far because of the fire. And Mr. Freeze, uses his freeze gun to put out some of the flames. But they, and Robin is wanting to go too, but they realize that this whole thing is going to collapse soon. And so I didn't talk about the Batwing. That was one of my favorite scenes. That was also, I believe, some 3D animation that looked really,
when
really
good. When they were going to the oil rig.
Yes. Yeah, when they first get in the Batwing, Alfred gives them a little bit of news, and they're like, we got to go. And it shows the Batwing flying out of the Batcave, and that was beautiful.
That was, I love that. It felt video gamey, but in a good way.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. The Batman logo on the door was interesting, but I liked it. It was maybe not the.
Now that was definitely thrown in there for kids.
Yes, I was gonna say that's probably not the stylistic choice I would have gone with, but it was still kind of cool. I was like, oh, the Batman logo. But yeah, that whole scene was that was fantastic, and I like that style of the Batwing too. It's not quite as cool as the Tim Burton Batwing, but it's pretty cool looking.
Yeah, I agree. It's you. So you would say that the Tim Burton Batwing is your favorite Batwing?
Yeah, probably, just because it's so iconic, and the way he flies up into the moon and basically is the bat signal for half a second and then flies down. No reason for that whatsoever, but still just super cool.
I have to say this version is my favorite version. With Batman 89 being a close second.
Yeah.
But I love that the aesthetic of the technology that Bruce Timm uses in his universe of DC characters. I really love the elongated look of it.
Yes.
I think that's really dope. Yeah. And I also like the bat from
Dark Knight Rises. Yeah, I do too.
I thought that was very unique and very cool. I love how it has propellers on the bottom.
Yeah.
So it kind of lifts up. I thought that was dope. Oh, you have one?
I've got the.
I'm so jealous.
I got the toy here. Oh. It's a little dusty right now, but yeah,
I'm so jealous.
I gotta figure out how to display it, but and it's got the little propellers on the bottom there.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that thing, man. I love I just love how unique it is.
Yeah, I agree.
Something we've never seen before, and it's not really a plane. It's not really a helicopter.
Right.
It's its own thing. It's its own vehicle.
The first time I saw it, when the first trailer or whatever that came out, and they showed a glimpse of it, I was like, oh my! It was one of the coolest looking things.
When it's doing that flip over.
Yeah. The noise it makes and everything. Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it's very. I agree. The bat is probably. Gosh, I don't know where the animated series one would land. If it would, for me, it might go 89 animated, then the bat. But I don't know. The bat might.
But they're all close though.
They're all very close. Yeah.
Yeah, because none of them are bad.
Right.
And So I can see why it would be hard to rank.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're all very close. But yeah, that the Bat is so unique.
Mm-hmm.
And then that scene when they come out of when he comes out of the alleyway.
Oh my god,
He's like
that scene.
trap like a rat in a maze.
Yeah.
He's like, you got the wrong animal there, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that scene. That moment was great. And I'm pretty sure that scene was in IMAX too, which is was awesome to see on that big IMAX screen.
Yeah, I thought that was dope.
So, going back to this movie, they save Nora Freeze, but in the process, Mr. Freeze falls what looks to be to his death. Which that was a very cool scene too, seeing Mr. Freeze fall and Kevin Conroy's performance in that, going, no, you could definitely feel that. Kevin Conroy is just the greatest. I mean, you could just definitely tell he brought that emotion to it. He did not want Mr. Freeze to fall in that moment. Even though Mr. Freeze was doing,
I agree.
He had this terrible plan, was going to kill Batgirl. He didn't know it was Batgirl, but he was going to kill Batgirl, and yet still Batman doesn't want to see him die. So that was a great moment.
And I think it's because he recognizes that Mr. Freeze, even though he's doing these terrible things, at the end of the day, he just wants to save his wife.
Right.
He's not really trying to hurt anyone unless he absolutely has to.
Yeah.
He was only gonna kill Barbara because she absolutely had to die for his wife to live.
Right.
Other than that, he would have left her alone. That's why he was in seclusion. He was, living his best life in the
in Antarctica or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think that's what makes him such an interesting villain too, because he's just trying to save his wife. He's not interested in money. He's not, he doesn't care who he has to kill in order to save his wife, but he's just his wife is the most important thing to him, and I just think that is so interesting.
Yeah, it's tragic, but it's also beautiful as well.
Right, exactly. But of course, we see the polar bears later, and Mr. Freeze's hand comes up out of the water and grabs hold of the polar bear, so we know, he's alive.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we fast forward a little bit, and I forget where we are, if it even says where we are, but there's some remote outpost kind of in the harsh winter landscape, and they've got the news on. And they talk about how Nora Freeze has been saved because of... I don't know if they say who the donor was, but because of a donor. And Victor happens to be outside the window and hears the news, and he's very happy, and then it shows him walking off with his polar bears.
Yeah.
And that's how the movie ends.
That made me happy.
Yeah, very happy. And you almost kind of feel happy for him, knowing that his wife, even though they're not going to be able to be together, but knowing that his wife he's accomplished his mission, basically. Now, here's my question. Here's the note I wrote. Do you think Victor went to that place, that house, every day and watched the news? Or did he just get super lucky that day and happened to catch the news story about his wife that one day when he goes... I'm guessing he went to the window multiple times, and that was just the one we saw.
I'm guessing he got lucky.
That would be very lucky.
I do think he went more than once, but I highly doubt that he went to that same window every single day
time,
just to watch the news. Because
he got a text message from a friend earlier that was like, "Hey, you should check out the news tonight."
Like, hey, you might see something you like. You might want to check out that news at 6:00 tonight.
Your friends,
BNR. I do think that he went to the window multiple times, but I have a hard time believing that he went to that same window
with his polar bears and
at the same time
and never gets noticed. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, somebody would have seen him by now.
Right. Somebody would have come out there and been like, "There's an awful lot of polar bear treks outside our window every day."
That's funny.
Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, Stu. Well, what would you rate this movie?
It's good, but like I said, it's missing that magic.
Yeah.
Um, and like I said, I love Mr. Freeze, but he felt I don't want to say unintelligent, but he definitely felt like he could have been smarter about some things.
Sure. Yeah.
And that was really that was a little bit of a bummer for me. So and the music felt synthetic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even though I enjoyed the movie and it was good, I'm gonna have to give it a 7 out of 10.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Still not bad. I'm sitting here leaning between 3 and 3.5 because I actually really enjoyed it. It might just because it was the first time I've seen it, and I maybe wasn't watching it with as critical of an eye as maybe I should have been. But
I had a feeling you were gonna say 3.5.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. So I guess right now I'm gonna give it 3.5, and then maybe when I revisit the movie down the road, I'll go, "What was I thinking?" No, I think it's a fun Batman movie. And like I said, it just feels like an extended episode of Batman the Animated Series, and I love that. So, yeah, I'm gonna give it 3.5. I think.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate.
Cool.
But like you said, later on down the road, you'll watch it and say like, what was I thinking?
Right.
Kind of like the Lost World, because you was tripping, bro.
I stand by that rating. I just put up some movie posters in my office at work because we've been kind of organizing our office, and I actually switched offices with my boss, and so now I've got these big long blank walls, and I was like, I got to put something up here. So on one wall, I put up a bunch of Part 2 posters. I got Batman Returns, Back to the Future Part 2, Superman 2, and then the Lost World Jurassic Park down at the end. So that's one wall of my office. Nice. But yeah, I like the Lost World, and I know 4 stars is a bit high, but that's
I like it too, but 4 stars. What other movies have you given 4 stars?
Oh, I'd have no idea, man. I'd have to. I don't know.
Because I feel like you probably gave Iron Man 4 at least 4, either 4 or 4.5.
Yeah, if not 4.
So you're saying that.
Yeah, I know.
The Lost World.
Lost World is not as good as Iron Man. That's true, I guess. But I don't know. I just like that movie. I love it. So I don't know.
I like it too, and I often find myself defending it, but I can't defend 4 stars, man.
Fair enough. That's But I do. I also find myself defending that movie too. So there was something else. There was something on. This is not important. I can cut this part out. But there was something on Reddit. That I saw recently, and now I can't remember what movie it was. But I was about to start commenting, and I was like, it's not worth it. I was like, I'm not going to change anybody's mind.
I do that all the time on Instagram, especially concerning the Snyderverse. I'll get ready to type something. I'm like, you know what? People have been fighting about the Snyderverse for 5 years now. I'm like, I'm over it. Whatever. If you don't like it, whatever. You're missing out. I'm gonna enjoy it.
That's what it was. It was about the Snyderverse. It was somebody on Reddit posted the deleted scene from the Joss Whedon Blu-ray where it shows it's the scene in the Snyder cut where
Superman
shows up and Alfred is like, he said you'd come, but it's him in the blue suit. They didn't do any of the color correcting on it. And the person who posted on Reddit was like, this suit looks better and I'm tired of pretending that it doesn't, or something like that, And I was going to comment, and be like, look, I know the black suit in the movie, there's no explanation for it, really. I know Zack Snyder went on record and said he kind of gave an explanation, but in the movie, there's no real explanation for it.
Yeah, you don't need an explanation. Everybody, at least, DC comic book fans, we know about the black suit.
Right.
Throw it in there. We don't need an explanation. Right. It just looks cool.
Right. But what I was going to write, which I ended up not writing, was I actually really don't like the blue suit from the Joss Whedon version because it was designed to be changed later.
Edited, yeah.
It looks almost too shiny. It's like weird. It's got like these
metallic
metallic highlights to it that I just don't like. You can see like the muscle padding underneath, almost like very
Yeah.
highlighted. And
Yeah,
I actually,
I wondered why they didn't mute it, because I mean, I feel like that's an easy fix.
yeah, I don't know. Unless Whedon just really wanted the bright blue and bright red. That was like what he was kind of thinking. I don't know.
I guess the more I think about it, I really feel like they purposely sabotaged that movie. I feel like they purposely made a bad movie.
You might be right. I mean, I remember Joss Whedon. I mean, Joss Whedon pissed everybody off just by making the movie, but Joss Whedon also pissed off a bunch of people after the movie came out. Somebody tweeted something about Steppenwolf being a bad villain, and he either liked the tweet or he like retweeted it or something, and so everybody was like, it seems like you don't even like the movie that you helped make. Yeah. And he didn't respond obviously to that, but I think you're right. I think either they purposely sabotaged it, or he came in and was like, I can't fix this the way you want me to fix it, and didn't even like what he was doing. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know.
I think that is a more accurate explanation. That the latter explanation. Yeah, he probably said, because by the time he got there, the movie was pretty much done. It was just, they just needed to do post-production after that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that he definitely came in and was like, I can't do what you want me to do. The movie's already made. So
yeah.
So I can do this, but whatever.
Right, but it's not gonna be good. And they're like, nah, it'll be better than, whatever. So that,
we don't care what you do as long as it's not that. As long as it's not Zack Snyder. Just do whatever you want in 2 hours.
All right. Yeah. Anyway, let me wrap this up real quick. We'd love to know what you think about Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero. You can always leave us a comment on cinemaheroes.com. You can leave us a comment on this YouTube video, of course, if you're watching. Please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'd love to have you as a new subscriber, and we'd love to hear from you any way you want to reach out to us, whether that's on the video or on Twitter or Instagram. The handle is Cinema Heroes for both of those. And we're on Facebook, facebook.com/SM and SM Podcast. Stu, remind everybody again one more time how they can follow you.
I am on YouTube at SmoothJStew. Just type it in the search bar, all one word, SmoothJStew, and I'll come right up. Also, I am on Instagram at SmoothJStew, all one word. And I am also a writer for The Cultured Nerd. Just go to theculturenerd.com, type in John Stewart Sr., and you'll see all of my articles pop up. So I would really appreciate if you would follow me on IG, subscribe to my channel, and read my articles. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. This is easily my favorite podcast.
Oh, well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah. And it's always a pleasure to have you on here. It's so much fun talking about these animated movies. So thank you for being so willing to join us. I think that about wraps it up for this episode, though. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm Jay Stu.
As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.